Hey, Table Rock Fishing Intel Pro members. First off, thanks for being Table Rock Fishing Intel Pro members. We do appreciate that. Helps us to do what we do. Helps us get out there, get you those reports, get you all that information to help you catch more fish every time you come to Table Rock Lake. It is Wednesday, November the 30th. Sorry you didn't get a report out last week. Between the holiday and other family stuff going on, just did not have the chance to get anything done, get any reports or anything like that done. So thanks for being patient with us, and thanks for letting us skip a week. But bite's been good, catching a few fish. We'll get into that here in a minute. As far as our lake level is concerned, we're at 911.35, I believe, or 85, I think. So basically, as of day after tomorrow, we'll be 3.5 feet low. Right now, we're a little bit more than that, but the Corps is in the process of dropping our normal pool down to 915. That starts on December 1st. So regardless, the lake's low. There are some stumps sticking out that don't normally stick out, so be careful, especially if you're running up the rivers or if you're cutting across points. Water temperature, we're right around 58 degrees, guys. Saw 57.9 and as high as 59.1. But really, most of everywhere I went, I saw about 58.5. So starting to get that water temperature where we need to be to have a good deep bite. We'll get into that in a minute. But again, thanks, guys, for being Table Rock Fishing Intel Pro members. I'd really like to encourage you guys to invite your friends, family, and whatnot to join Table Rock Fishing Intel as well. Help us to continue to give you guys reports, continue to send you guys information to help you catch more fish on Table Rock Lake. Little app update. Hopefully by the first of the year, the app will be up and running, and of course you guys will have access to that as soon as it becomes available. But if you're coming down, going to fish the lower end of the lake, fish the lower end last Saturday, I guess it was. Yeah, it's either Friday or Saturday, I don't remember which. But bite was decent. Best bite down there was definitely a deep bite. The deep bite is changing, and it's changed since then, but the deep bite is definitely being a little bit different, a little bit strange. The best thing I can tell you is have multiple baits on your deck. I've caught them on everything. I've caught them on a Damiki. I've caught them on a drop shot. I've caught them on a scuba spoon. I've caught them on the LS spin. I've caught them on a jigging wrap. Pretty much anything that you can fish deep, sooner or later you're going to get bit on it. Doesn't mean you're going to get bit on it every time. Get a lot of fish looking, even today, a lot of fish looking, a lot of fish not biting, a lot of fish following. And then it's really a matter of figuring out what they want. As far as the deep bite is concerned, last week when I was down by the dam, most of it was, well, it was up Long Creek for the most part. A lot of them around the islands, that sort of thing, anywhere from about 45 to 55 foot deep, wherever I could find shad. Since then, with the water cooling, the shad are moving back into the creeks. Today, I found the shad third to about halfway back into the creeks. Most of the fish were 40 to 60 around the schools of shad. You can find fish in other locations. Don't get me wrong, guys. You can go out on a main lake gravel point and find fish out there 45 to 55 foot deep on the bottom. But if there's no shad around, they're really hard to catch. So keep that in mind. Look for the shad. If you find the shad, you will find fish that will, if they're not actively feeding when you find them, will start to feed once you start harassing them. So look for shad. Most of them are third to about halfway back. Some of the fish are in the trees, some of them aren't. The more active fish seem not to be in the trees. They seem to be up a little bit higher in the water column too, usually about 30 to 50 feet deep. And they seem to be in little packs of like 6 to about 12 or 20 fish. You find those little 6 to 20 fish packs, and those are the ones you can really key on and catch a lot. Other bites that are working down by the dam, there's been a decent crankbait bite, especially if you go up into Long Creek and hit some of those channel swing banks, primarily with a rock crawler or a wiggle wart. Basically fishing right on the bank. You'll go down a 100-yard stretch of bank and usually get 2 or 3 bites, sometimes a few more than that, but if you've got wind, you got cloud cover, you've got a decent bite doing that. And then there have been some smallmouth showing up on those gravel and rock mix points, especially at the ends of the channel swings, where the gravel and rock mix and it starts to shallow up a little bit. Most of those fish are coming out of down by the dam 15 to about 25 foot deep on either a shaky head with a Magnum finesse worm or a Senko on it, or I've been throwing the Jewel Pro Spider jig, actually the Peewee Pro Spider jig HD with either a speed craw or a Versa craw on it. Going to mid-lake where I was today, a couple of different bites going on. The deep bite is definitely starting to set up really well here. I didn't catch as many fish as I saw, and I probably had, I don't know, 11 or 12 fish deep today. Most of those were keeper fish. The surprising thing is 2 of them were largemouth. I had one nice 4-pound largemouth out there in about 50 foot of water, and then another one about 3.5 in about 40 foot of water. So there are some largemouth starting to move out deep. Fish are starting to feed. Again, you've got to have shad around. You've got to have shad. If you don't have shad, you're kind of wasting your time. And I say that from experience because I spent about 20 minutes on a spot where I had a pretty good sized group of fish out on the main lake, on a gravel point, 50 foot deep, on the bottom. I was working them, was dropping everything I had in the tackle box at them, and I could get them to follow, I could get them to chase, but I couldn't get them to bite. As soon as I moved back about a third of the way back into a creek, found some shad, started to drop on those fish around the shad, and it would just boom, 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 boom. They'd get fired up. I could catch 3 or 4 fish. They'd settle back down, and then have to get them fired up again. But got to have shad. If you don't have shad, you're not going to get bit. Just like I said with the lower end, pretty much anything you can fish deep that you like to fish deep, you should have laying on your deck, whether it's a Damiki rig, drop shot, spoon, LS spin, jigging wrap, trying to think of anything else, blade bait, if you like throwing blade bait, any of that sort of stuff that you like to throw deep, you like to fish deep, you're going to want to have that stuff on your deck right now if you're going to go out and fish deep. Shallow bite here in the lower end. Threw a crankbait a little bit. I had 1 fish on a crankbait. I was on a wiggle wart on a main lake channel swing, right at the end of the channel swing where it changed over from basically almost bluff-like rock to bigger rock. I fished up. It's probably about a 200-yard stretch of bank and only had the 1 fish, and it wasn't even a keeper. So I don't want to say that bite's going away. I only fished 1 bank with it and only had the 1 fish, so I kind of left that. Switched up to a shaky head and a Pee Wee HD football jig and started hitting some secondary points in some of the bigger creeks down here, especially those points that have some of the bigger rock and some of the ledgy type rock in it, and managed to catch 3 or 4. Most of those were smallmouth. I think I had 1 Kentucky, but they were smallmouth and they were all pretty good quality. Basically out there on a shaky head, 12 to 20 feet deep. The best bite seemed to be right around 13, 14 foot deep, but it did slide out a little bit deeper as the sun came up on that bank. But the other key to that is that I had to have timber. If I didn't have trees, I didn't have a brush, I didn't have anything else, I couldn't get bit. As long as I had some standing timber around, I can get bit. I think those fish are really keying on or using the timber as cover. Bait comes by, they're hitting it that way. Go up into the James River. James River's got better shallow bites going on. There is a deep bite up there. Most of that deep bite is from point 12 down, and most of those fish are right in the guts of the creeks. The shad are a little bit further back when you go up the James. Versus down the lower end, it's been a third to about halfway back. The James, you're talking halfway to about 3/4 of the way back is where you're finding the bulk of the shad. The shad are a little bit shallower, and the fish have been a little bit more active up there on the deep bite. And again, I don't worry about the overall depth right now. I'm looking for the depth the shad are at. They can be over 200 foot of water. It doesn't matter. As long as I've got shad and I've got fish around those shad, I've been able to get bit. Again, got to have the tackle box laying on the front deck, spoon, jigging wrap, LS spin, drop shot rig, Damiki rig, whatever you like to drop, you need to have that laying on your front deck and be ready to drop and ready to switch. Especially if those fish are just small or just following it. I found that if they're a little bit more active, the jigging wrap, the spoon, and the LS spin seem to be better. If they're not really feeding on the shad and not being real active, drop that Damiki, drop that drop shot rig down there. You'll get more bites. Other than that, shallow bite's really been good up there. The crankbait bite, the best crankbait bite I've had has been up the James, pretty much from Cedar Cove on up. I was going to say point 12, but we did catch a few in Cedar Cove and a few on the main lake there by Cedar Cove. But then point 12 on up, all the way up above Bridgeport. And basically, I am just hopping from one channel swing to another and kind of keying on the ends of those channel swings. That really seems to be where the better bite is, especially if you've got wood on it. If you've got wood on the end of a channel swing, you seem to be able to get more bites on either a wiggle wart or a rock crawler. Really got to have wind, though. Went out and threw it last week when it was dead slick calm. Had a couple of fish bump it, but they didn't really eat it. 2 days or a day later, went back up there. It was windy, and they were eating it. So wind definitely helps that bite, so keep that in mind. And then the jig bite has been strong and will probably continue to be strong. Basically, that day that I did not have the wind, had fish bumping that crankbait, just kind of slowed down, backed up, threw the Pee Wee HD spider jig up there with a VersaCrawl on it, and just working it slowly around that wood cover. Rock and gravel mixed with wood cover. Up there, it was anywhere from 8 to about 15. I don't think I caught anything deeper than 15. 8 to about 15 foot deep on those points, mostly Main Lake up there. Did go back into a couple of creeks, went back in Piney and caught them on the secondaries in Piney. I think I had one or two back in Woolley as well, but you can certainly catch some fish back in the creeks on the secondaries. Got to have rock, got to have gravel, got to have wood. You got those three things on a point, you should be able to catch some fish, either with a jig or a shaky head right now up the James. Go up the White River. The White River's got the best deep bite going on probably anywhere on the lake right now, at least the most consistent. It seems like the shad have got their act together a lot faster up the White River than anywhere else. I was up the White River, I don't know if it was Wednesday or it was one day last week. I was up the White River, caught them up there fishing deep, but basically just keying on shad. Didn't care how deep I was. At one point I think I was over 120. Next spot I fished, I was in 40 foot of water catching them on the bottom, but that's where the shad were. And wherever the shad are, especially if I've got fish working around them, I can catch them, should be able to catch them. Fishing deep, fishing vertically, or casting to them. Demiki rig, drop shot rig, if they're not real active. If they're active, scuba spoon, LS spin, and the jigging wrap have all been good. Keying on the shad, keying on the shad. You can find fish in trees. You can find fish on gravel points. You can find fish all over the place, but if there's no shad, those fish are not nearly as active, and they're a lot harder to catch. Crankbait bite was strong up there as well. Actually did better from about, I guess, the mouth of the Kings to right around Sweetwater. And I literally channel swing hopped. Hit a channel swing, fish the whole thing, cut across, hit the next channel swing, hit the whole thing. Almost every one of my bites on the ends of the channel swings where I had standing timber or brush, but mostly standing timber. Wiggle wart, rock crawler were my two best were the two crankbaits I was throwing, and most of the fish came out of less than 10 foot of water. But the other key factor to it, I had wind. If you've got wind and you've got some standing timber on the ends of those channel swings up the Kings, you can certainly get bit doing that. And then the jig bite, caught them around Shell Knob, caught them up the Kings, caught them up around Big M, all on a jig, Pee Wee HD spider jig, caught a few on a shaky head as well, the Magnum shaky head from Jewel. I've been throwing Hail Mary a lot and Bass Whacker a lot have been my colors. And then on the shaky head, I've been putting a bulkier bait on it, either a Senko or a Magnum finesse worm. Green pumpkin, but most of the fish up there were 12 to 20. Did fish a little bit up the Kings where it was still had a little bit of stain, because it clears up quite a bit when you get above Sweetwater. But where I still had a little bit of stain, I was fishing it a little bit shallower, probably 8 to 15. But again, gravel and rock mixed with standing timber or with brush piles. Don't know what it is about this year, but if you don't have wood around, these fish are not nearly as plentiful and not nearly as aggressive. I think they're using the wood to either hide and ambush, some sort of cover, whatever, but we certainly need to have wood close by in order for you to get bit on a shaky head or a jig right now, and a crankbait for that matter. Really need wood on a crankbait as well. Guys, we're almost to December. Our good deep bite, I think, is right around the corner. If it doesn't happen, it may happen this weekend in time for the guys of the Oak Outdoors. I don't know. Weather's pretty stable, but the nighttime temperatures are going to be down in the 30s, in lower 40s. So we could really see that deep bite turn on by this weekend. I'm sure if it doesn't by this weekend, next week it's going to turn on. And I've mentioned this before. If you guys want to learn that deep bite, now is the time to come down and do it. I mean, a lot of guys like to come down in the summertime when it's hot, but when it's hot in the summertime, you're learning how to drop shot and maybe spoon. That's really about it. In the wintertime, you've got Demiki rigs, you've got jigging wraps, you got spoons, you got drop shots, you got LS spins, you've got all these different baits. Plus, it helps for us to show you how to find the shad. It helps for us to show you how to find the fish. what to look for, what kind of patterns are, how are we patterning the birds, what type of banks, what type of, when we say a gut of a creek, what do we mean? All that sort of stuff. Great time to come and learn it, probably throughout all of December. If you guys are interested in doing that, certainly give me a call. Again, thank you for being Table Rock Fishing Intel Pro members. But if you're thinking about coming down, learning how to fish deep, or just want to go on a guide trip, give me a call. It's Focus Fishing Guide Service. You can reach me at 417-860-4743 or hit my website, focusfishing.com, where you can either book online, just shoot me an email, however you want to do it. But guys, again, thanks for being Intel Pro members. Thanks for watching the video. Can't wait to hear from you. We'll see you on the water.